All right, good evening, everybody. It is the Safety and the Sportswriter show with Knoxville, Nate, and Big Joe, coming to you from a snowy northeast and a rainy down south as we're trying to get our way to springtime and hopefully some sunshine. We haven't had much of that, and like I said, Nate, before we were getting on the air, seeing those snowmobiles tearing around Times Square was pretty cool with all the lights and everything. So, anyway, it's on the internet somewhere. If anybody's out there, take a look at it. It's pretty funny. Snowmobiles in the middle of New York City during the snowstorm. So, but we, football. We're a week into our withdrawal. I got through it with the hockey games on Sunday. I don't know if you tuned in. Did you watch any of the hockey?
I did not.
It's an exciting game.
I got to draw the line somewhere. I mean, I watch every college football game. I watch almost every NFL game. I watch every college basketball game that's on TV, every Duke college basketball game, every Tennessee college basketball game, every Lakers NBA game. I mean, I got to draw the line somewhere.
Yeah, I know. I believe me. I know. You got to take some time off from it, but it was a very exciting, very patriotic win. Glad to see that the U.S. was able to pull it out in an exciting way, and we'll see what happens now. And they're going back into their regular seasons, and we will see what happens. The combine started this week. Well, first of all, let's go back to Senior Bowl. Happened what, last week?
That was 3 weeks ago.
Okay, 3 weeks ago. We didn't spend a lot of time on that. But one guy who came out of that with a big boost, from what I've seen, is Nussmeier. And I don't know how much that means. What do you think about is the combine more important? Is the individual workouts more important? Or is these showcases like the Senior Bowl more important, or is it a matter of getting all three together?
I think it's all three together for sure. The most important thing is what you put on tape during your collegiate career. But I think it's very helpful. First off, I give these guys credit who go down to the Senior Bowl because they don't have to go. But the ones that do go, I give them a lot of credit because, they're getting to play, against the best of the best, and they're willing to compete. So I think it's very helpful. And the game itself doesn't really tell you a ton, but the week of practice is what really stands out to me, and what I think most of the evaluators tend to care about is what these guys look like. On the week of practice, one-on-ones, skeleton drills, all of that. As far as the quarterbacks go, I definitely think, Garrett Nussmeier had probably the best week because he had solid week of practice, and then played pretty well in the game. He earned the MVP honors. He was 5 of 8 for 57 yards and had a rushing TD, and also threw a 2-point conversion to Notre Dame's Malachi Fields. So I think it was a good opportunity for him, and I think he looks pretty good. I never thought he was bad. I thought he was a good quarterback. He was dealing with an oblique injury almost the entire season, and then they had no running game. So when a team is one-dimensional, the other team can kind of tee off on that. So I think Garrett's a good quarterback. He's a smart, he's a coach's son. I think he'll get drafted probably, I would say maybe second, third, fourth round, somewhere in that region. And, I think he was probably the best quarterback, at the combine.
When you look around what's going on right now, have you looked at the combine at all? I know you usually peek in it at all. Have you seen anything on the combine that is sticking out for you?
Yeah, I mean, today was the first time, the first day that guys actually got onto the field. They arrived on Monday and basically did the medical and started doing the interviews which is probably the most important thing, honestly, is the interviews. These guys, these coaches, these executives, they want to meet these kids. They want to find out what makes them tick. They want to see if they really love football and that kind of thing. But, today was day one, which is, the first day where we're actually getting like some numbers back. And I can tell you the guy that already helped himself the most was Texas Tech's David Bailey. I don't think he really even had to go to this because of his season at Texas Tech, where he had 14 and a half sacks. But today he ran a 4.5140 and showed that not only is he quick, not only can he get to the quarterback, but he's also fast as hell, and ran the fastest time of any edge rusher. Second fastest time was Dennis Sutton, the Penn State product, who had a good career, and he ran a 4.64. So nothing to sneeze at right there. I think both those guys helped themselves with the way that they ran, and definitely, did something to increase their already pretty high draft stock. So like both those guys, and I think both of them probably, definitely help themselves for sure.
Well, I think it is important if you show up. I mean, you don't have to show up, like you said, but over the past 10 years with these guys that depend more on their independent workouts, which is, with their players, usually at their college, and the coaches come to them. I think the coaches and the GMs like the fact that when you're talking about attitudes, he wants to be noticed. He doesn't. I don't have to go see him. He's coming to me, and they send scouts all year long. I mean, where do you think they weigh most of it? I mean, as far as performance, with the scouting, professionals with each team, they pretty much know what they can do during the games, don't you think?
You mean, what do you mean?
As far as, like you said, the interviews are more important here because they pretty much have a good view of what their ceilings are and their floors and what the potential is for. Do you think because they spend so much time scouting these guys now that it kind of devalues it a little bit, or no?
You mean as far as being at the combine?
Yeah, I mean the on-field stuff.
Yeah, I mean, you can certainly help yourself. If these guys that take this, it's like a job interview. So if you take this seriously, you put the time in from the end of the season until today, and you work on your start, you work on your lean, you work on your 10-second splits, like I'm sure David Bailey did, and then you come in here and you run a 4.51. That can do nothing but help you. First off, he's here, he's competing. Would I look at a guy who is in the middle of the pack and then comes to the combine and doesn't do anything? I probably wouldn't. I think these pro day things are a joke. You're on the team's home turf. They only run the drills that they're good at. It's very scripted. This combine, it kind of evens the playing field. Everybody's running on the same surface. Everybody's doing the same drills. They're all being timed by the same people. I think this is a really good place to get a really good idea of what somebody's actual measurements are and what their actual times are. And so I think the guys that come here and compete, are really helping themselves. And guys like David Bailey today, who ran the 4.51, and there's always a couple guys every year who have a really good time, or they throw up a ton on the bench, and they people take notice of that. So I think it's helpful, but it's all a process. You got your tape, you got your Senior Bowl, you got your combine, you got your workouts, you got your interviews. All that stuff goes together to create an evaluation. However, we are still right now having people run, so we got times coming in as we're talking here, but I think all of it goes together to help. But one of the most important things for sure is the meeting. They want to see what makes these guys tick. They want to find out if they love football or if they're just doing it because it's a way for them to make millions of dollars. And they want to find out, ask them the tough questions. If they have character issues, if they have, skeletons in their closet, they want to dig into it and they want to get a truthful answer. Because let me tell you what, these teams, before they invest millions of dollars, they do their homework, and they already have the answers to the questions that they're answering, that they're asking. They just want to know if these guys are answering truthfully. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Of the quarterbacks that are at this combine right now, who are you looking at as kind of can raise their stock a lot? Who's the guy that people will be looking at and saying, okay, let me take a good hard look at this guy?
Well, I think one of the people that will definitely help themselves here is Taylor Green, the quarterback from Arkansas. First off, he is a beautiful specimen. He's like 6'6". He's probably 240 pounds. He's ripped. He's fast. He's strong. And this thing, this combine thing is perfect for him, because he's going to come out here and he's going to wow people with how fast he is and how strong he is. Now, the only question marks I have on him is, what is his throwing going to look like? Because he was wowing everybody at the Senior Bowl until he started throwing it. And then it was a little bit errant. But I think he can certainly help himself if he can throw it okay. And then if he throws up good numbers. Another guy that can help himself, I think, is Cade Klubnik. This is a guy who was a first-round draft pick, going to be a first-round draft pick after last year. He chose to come back to school. We all know what happened.
Got hurt.
Yeah, we all know what happened to Clemson this year. They played like crap. And he takes all the blame for it, because when you win, you get all the credit. When you lose, you get all the blame. But he doesn't just all of a sudden suck. He's still a pretty good player, and I think if he can come in here and have a good combine, I think he can help himself. He did not go to the Senior Bowl, so that this is a place where he can help himself. And then Ty Simpson, the Alabama quarterback. This is a coach's son as well. His dad is the head coach at Tennessee Martin here, a couple hours from me. He is a smart, cerebral guy. He's got a good arm. He's got good mechanics. So I think if he can, throw it pretty well, I think he can increase his stock, and he might even be able to work his way up to where he's the second quarterback taken.
How about Drew Aller? Is Drew Aller there this week?
He is.
Now, here's a guy who was injured. I don't know how healthy he is. Did he tear his knee?
Yeah, he tore his ACL. I don't think he'll be doing anything here. He did that in October, so he's not even 6 months out from an ACL tear. I don't think he'll be doing a whole lot.
And I read somewhere that he's meeting with the Steelers already. I guess because he's Penn State, they feel they have to interview the guy. But even when he was healthy, you and I have been going back and forth about him since he went to the Nittany Lions. I mean, yeah, against Purdue, yeah, he's cool. Northwestern, yeah, he's cool. Ohio State, not so much. Michigan, not so much. So, I mean, when does the picture start fading out when you see him, when you got a guy like Drew Aller who, when he's against the best competition, he makes big mistakes?
Yeah, he's just not a guy that jumps out to me on tape. He's got prototypical size. He's got a strong arm, but he's got inconsistent touch and very inconsistent ball placement. And what I mean by that is sometimes he throws it too hard. Sometimes he doesn't throw it soft enough, vice versa. When a guy's running wide open down the field and all you got to do is put air under it, sometimes he tries to zip it and underthrows or overthrows the guy. And that's a problem. And I noticed that from him throughout his career. He looked pretty good his sophomore season in a very conservative offense. But then, once the playbook opened up in his junior senior year, he became a lot more erratic. And, he struggles to adjust from his pre-snap plan to fit with the coverage that he's getting. And, he's just not a guy that makes a lot of anticipatory throws and can beat coverage and throw guys open. He's just not a guy that can do that. And with with the knee.
Yeah.
I just don't know where he's even going to go. I mean, I would assume somebody will take a flyer on him in the
But
later
late.
rounds,
Yeah.
but
I mean,
I'm
I
thinking
think
to
it'll be
five to
fourth.
seven.
Yeah, exactly. Fourth or later, because you're not going to get a good look at him maybe till halfway through training camp.
Yeah, he's probably not gonna play a whole lot this year. Even if you get him and you put him on your roster, he may not even be an arm for you until halfway through the season. So I don't think anyone's gonna waste a draft pick on a backup quarterback who's not even gonna be available.
Well, a good comparison with him is the guy who came out of Florida State a couple of years ago, tore up his knee, and then went to the Jets. And I don't know if he's on the Jets anymore. Um, I can't think of his name right now, but you know, it's a project, and the project won't get to the field until way later in the season. And if he does get to the field, it means that your season's going in the wrong direction, and you're probably torn up already. So, yeah, I wouldn't waste a lot of time on Drew Aller. One thing I saw today was the Indianapolis Colts are looking to get rid of Richardson. I guess they're putting him out there on the market, which is not a shock on one hand, but on the other hand, you don't know what Daniel Jones is going to do. What is their plan at quarterback? Because they're not going to be picking at the top of this, and it's not a great draft as it is. Are they going to reach out for a Mac Jones? What are they going to do?
Well, I mean, I think they're already pretty certain that Anthony Richardson is not the answer. I've seen enough of him, and I think they've seen enough of him too to know that he's not an NFL quarterback. Not to mention, he's always hurt. So I think they're trying to get something out of him at this point, but I don't know what kind of value he has. I really don't. I don't think there is any value in him. I mean, somebody might give him a fifth round, sixth round pick for him, maybe, but I don't know. I don't even know if he's worth that. But they're going to have to figure something out, because I don't think they're going to bring back. I don't think they're going to bring back the old man.
Yeah,
I think they're probably going to move on from that. They've got Riley Leonard, the kid from Notre Dame and Duke, on the roster. They got Daniel Jones, who's coming off the Achilles. I don't know. I don't know what their plan is, but they've struggled at quarterback, ever since Andrew Luck got hurt. They've had a different quarterback almost every season, and they're not really going to solve it this year because they were just good enough to where they are drafting too high to get someone. Now, I do think they will draft someone else. And they'll probably look on the free agent market, but the free agent market isn't that big of a thing. No. And we'll get into everybody, down the road, we'll get into everybody who's available. But there are some quarterbacks that I would look at in this group. A guy that interests me is, Sawyer Robertson out of Baylor, Haynes King, the kid out of Georgia Tech. Carson Beck will get some looks. Like I said, Ty Simpson, Garrett Nussmeier, Cade Klubnik. All those guys are probably, Luke Altmaier, the guy from Illinois.
Yeah, I like him.
All those guys will get, a look probably in the middle rounds, between like the third and the fifth round.
It's going to be interesting because, usually there's so much is about quarterbacks. And like you look at what you just said, there's some talent in those quarterbacks, but most of them have the P word, project, over their heads. Yes, potential, not sure things. They're betting on the guy at Indiana being the only guy that's going to, step right in and start. But that could work out for them down the road. It might be a good thing for them to come in without the spotlight, have to earn their stripes and see what happens. Like we talked about 2 weeks ago, there's going to be 8 new quarterbacks somewhere in this year coming up. There's going to be 8 new starting quarterbacks that we don't know where they are yet or who they are yet. So it'll make it very, very interesting for that. Well, I want to talk to you about a little bit because I'm just starting to get into it. Like you said, sometimes you have to take some time off. And college basketball, the men. Last night, UConn put a whooping on St. John's. But I was starting to look around. I get sidetracked here with UConn and St. John's, but a lot of big names have 20 plus wins right now, and a couple of unknowns that I want to run by you and see what you think. First of all, we know Duke, Arizona, Michigan, they're legit. Iowa State and Houston, UConn, Florida, Purdue's always big. Gonzaga, of course, Gonzaga, Illinois, Virginia. I mean, they lost their coach last year at the last minute. Uh, Back and got 24 wins. What do you think about the Virginia squad?
Yeah, they're probably the most non-talked about contender of any team in college basketball. They're 24-3. I think they are 13-2 in the ACC, and no one is saying a word about them. And I think that's kind of how they won it. I mean, their only loss all year, their only losses all year, they lost to Butler by 7 points early in the season. They lost at Virginia Tech by 10, and then they lost to North Carolina by 5 points at home. Those are the only losses they have all season. So I think that this is a pretty solid team. They're led by this kid named DeRitter, who is a kind of a foreigner kind of guy, who's kind of a European kind of dude. He averages 16 points a game and over 55% field goal. But they're just, they're a team. They're kind of a team kind of group where they have, I think, 4 or 5 guys that average double figures. As I just said, DeRitter. Then they've got Malik Thomas, who's their best guard. He averages 12 points a game. Then they've got 2 other guards, and Sam Lewis and Chance Mallory, who both average 10 points. So this is a team that plays well together. They're about 9 or 10 deep. They play good defense. I think people are sleeping on them, and I think that might be a mistake, as they've had a heck of a season. I guess because no one even knows who their coach is, that maybe they don't get the pub that they should. But I'm telling you, this is a good basketball team, and I think that they are going to have a shot at winning the ACC. They'll play Duke on Saturday. Virginia does at 12. And I think that's going to be a really telltale sign on what this team has got going forward. And their coach is Ryan Odom, who most recently was at VCU. And, people don't know a whole lot about him, but he's got a head coaching record of 245 and 130, which is solid. And, he's made the NCAA tournament with VCU and Utah State. And then he also coached in Division II at Lenoir-Rhyne and made the tournament there. So this guy's kind of an unknown, but he certainly is doing a hell of a job this year as they use the transfer portal, and they created a team pretty much from scratch, as they were 15-17 last year.
All right, and then we got Nebraska and Michigan State right after them with 23 and 22 wins. Michigan State's always there. You can always count on Tom Izzo and his team being in the mix a little bit. What do you think about Nebraska?
Nebraska's kind of fallen apart a little bit as of late. This is a team that started the year, where they were 15, 16-0, and then the last 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. The last 8 games, they've lost 4 of them. So part of that is that their schedule has gotten a lot tougher. Part of that is, I think, they just haven't been as hot. But this is probably the best Nebraska team I've ever seen, even saying that. But, they had a bad loss 2 games ago where they lost at Iowa 57-52, and then they got beat by Purdue at home, and then they lost to Illinois and Michigan. So it's not like they have like terrible losses. Most of their losses are to good teams, but I'm still a little bit concerned. Obviously, that they've lost 4 of their last 8. Now they're 13-4 in the conference, but 24-4 overall. Like I said, still the best Nebraska team I've seen. And Coach Hoiberg is obviously very experienced, and his son Sam is leading the team in steals and assists. And they've got a good guy, Price Sanford is probably their best player. He averages 18 points and 5 rebounds a game. And he's a legitimate kid out of Iowa. He's about 6'7", 215, and he can do it all.
And then we got Kansas and Arkansas. You got Self and Calipari, and it's solid. They're both 20-7 from what I'm seeing here. This might be a couple of days old, but still, when you see other teams with 24, 25 wins, are they potentially making themselves sleepers? They're going to be in the tournament just because of their reputations. But what do you think about them?
Let's talk about Kansas first, right? Mm-hmm. Kansas has probably the most talented player in all of college basketball, and that's Darren Peterson. He averages 20 points a game. He's athletic. He is just an absolute dog. The problem is he doesn't play half the time. He's only played in 17 games. Some of the games he does play, he doesn't play in the second half. And, Bill Self has been asked about it a number of times, and he doesn't really know what the answer is. They're 11-4 now in the Big 12. The Big 12 is lights out. I think the Big 12 is probably the best conference from top to bottom in college basketball. At least the top half of it is, and so there's no easy games in this conference. And Kansas still has to play Arizona State, and Kansas State to finish out the season. So Arizona is their toughest game. They just beat the crap out of Houston the couple of days after Cincinnati beat them by 30-something points. And it was the worst home loss under Bill Self. So I like how they bounced back against Houston. But like I said, I'm worried about them because of Darren Peterson. If he plays, they can win. But, who's to say he's going to play as he's been often injured. And sometimes, there is no known injury and he still sits out. So that worries me.
All right. How about Arkansas with Calipari?
Yeah, Arkansas is a team that I would be concerned about if I was playing against them. They're tied right now for second in the SEC. They're 21-7. They're 11-4 overall, and they have one of the best players in all the country, and a freshman whose name's Darius Acuff. He leads the SEC in scoring. He averages 23 points a game. He's a freshman, like I said, out of Detroit. He can light it up, man. I watched the game against Alabama. He had 50 points, and he was absolutely unbelievable. And he had 49, my bad. But, they lost in double overtime, mainly because 4 of their players fouled out. But this is a deep team, man. They've got DJ Wagner. They've got Billy Richmond. They've got Carter Knox. I wouldn't want to play this team in the tournament because they're starting to play their best basketball right now, and with the Darius Acuff, I think he's going to be tough to stop. Man, they've got some good guards, and you know how it is in the tournament. Most of the time, the teams with the best guards end up winning.
Almost always. How about this Miami of Ohio team? Is this legit, or is it just they're in a very bad conference and taking in every advantage of it?
It's hard to say that they're not good considering they're 27-0. However, the voters only have them ranked 21st.
Right.
I'm trying to think of what their biggest win probably is. there's not a whole lot of people outside of the MAC that they've beaten. So, their schedule is probably their biggest hindrance. But they're a team that can light it up. They've scored over 100 points multiple times this year. I think they've scored over 100 like 7 times, which is most in Division I college basketball, if I'm correct. And so, if they get hot, I think they can make some noise in the tournament. It's just about how high a seed can they get, because the higher the seed, the better chance they have of getting deep.
And the last one I want to talk about, they come around usually once a decade. The Billikens of St. Louis, 25-2 out of the A10. The A10 is not a Big Ten. It's not a Big East. It's not an SEC, but it does produce some solid basketball teams. And the Billikens, first of all, how much do you know about it? And secondly, what are your feelings on the Billikens?
Yeah, this is a team that's pretty damn good, man. 25-3. They're 13-2 in the A10. And the A10 is not much talked about, but it's a good little basketball conference. They got VCU, they got Dayton, they got St. Joe's, George Mason, Davidson, Duquesne, Fordham, George Washington, LaSalle, Loyola, Chicago, those teams. And those teams are traditionally good at basketball. I think St. Louis is definitely the best team out of this conference. But VCU and Dayton still might get in the tournament as well. The only loss that they have on their schedule early in the season was they played Stanford and lost by 1, 78-77. And then, they've won every other game until the last week and a half, where they've dropped to Dayton and Rhode Island, respectively, both of them on the road. So, I think this is a team that, can win some games. And obviously they've got the rec spec boy, Robbie Avila, the kid that, played last year and was a pretty good baller. He's a center. He's 6'10", 240, and averages about 13 points a game and 5 rebounds. So, how far can they get? I don't know, but I definitely think this is a team that can win a couple of games in the tournament.
And when looking at it right now, why I wanted to get on this is there's a lot. Like I said, it looks like it should be a really good tournament. If as long as we don't have somebody mess it up from one of these conferences, which only gets like one team in, it should be a solid tournament. It looks like March Madness right now is shaping up to maybe be one of the best March Madnesses we've had in a while. What do you think?
Yeah, I agree. I think there's probably at least 8, maybe 9, 10 teams that could win it all. And I don't think, that's been the case. The problem is some teams are facing some serious injuries. Richie Saunders, the senior shooting guard for BYU, he tore his knee. He's out for the season. Texas Tech, who's 20-7, and a really, really good team in the Big 12. They lost their best player in JT Toppin. He's averaged over, he was the Big 12 Player of the Year last year, and this year he averages 22 points and 11 rebounds, leading the league, and he tore his knee, and he's out. So I think that's a problem for both of those teams. I would have been worried if I had to play Texas Tech or BYU if each of those teams had those two guys. But now that those two teams are missing those two dudes, I think that's a problem. But, I still could see Duke, Arizona, Michigan, Houston, UConn, Florida, Gonzaga, Illinois, probably Virginia, maybe even throw Kansas in there if Darren Peterson decides he wants to play. I could put all those teams, as potentially winning it. And then, some of these teams, you get, Kansas is 20-7 and they're ranked 14. Well, then you got, Tennessee and Louisville are both 20-7 as well, and they're ranked 22 and 24 respectively. And Vanderbilt's 21-6 at 25. So there's really not a whole lot of difference between the 14th ranked team in the country and the 25th ranked team in the country. And so I think that's showing you the parity that exists. And I think this may be one of the best tournaments that we ever see. And I really have no idea who's going to win it.
All right. We're going to wrap it up now. We'll be back next week to talk. We'll do college basketball and get more in depth when we see the shakeouts from the combine. As I didn't say it when we came on the air, go USA Hockey, women and men. Made us proud over there in Italy, coming back with the gold. Both exciting games. And believe me, it was needed on Sunday with the snow around here to have something to watch, because it was just a miserable day up here. So thank you for the USA hockey teams for giving me something to root about, because other than that, it was like curling was on all week long. I couldn't take it.
Oh, my God. I can't stand that. Whoever decided that was a sport? It'd be a sport if they played like shuffleboard and they took those things and they just rolled them down and then tried to stop them. I would think that would be a sport. But sitting there with the little brushing the ice is just stupid.
I know it's been around forever, but in the last decade, I'm glad you bring this up, because it's like, I think it's something that non-athletic people or people who just don't like sports want to root for it, because it makes them feel like they root for sports, if you get what I'm saying. Because it, like you said, it's not a real sport.
It's not.
There's nothing to it.
When it's not fun to watch, it's boring as hell to watch, and it makes no sense. And I think they should get rid of it.
The worst thing is they had it on every freaking day.
Yeah, put it on one day maybe and show the final, and that's it. I don't want to see the rest of that crap. But just so you know, some more times came in. Malachi Lawrence, the edge rusher from Central Florida, he ran a 4.5340, and then Trey Moore, the defensive end from Texas, ran a 4.54. So we're getting some burners in here, Joe, and there's some kids making them some money by going out here. And the kid TJ Parker, who plays, edge and defensive tackle for Clemson, he ran a 4.68. He's almost 280 pounds. So really, really good times. And some of these kids have been working hard, as you can see it show up in their times.
Well, we will see what happens. My friend, have a good weekend. Stay dry. I always, I got my little heart with Virginia's always been one of my favorite teams, so I can't root for your Dukies, but I'm rooting for a good team, good game, and I'll watch it on Saturday.
What? You're not going to root for my Dukies? Come on, man. What are you talking about? John Shire, Slim, Isaiah Evans.
I'm not against those guys, but Virginia always of the SEC teams ACC teams when I was growing up. I go back to when they had guys like Jeff Lamp and just before Sampson, and I don't know why I picked Virginia. I mean, I don't really have a great loyalty in college basketball. I've always liked St. John's a little bit, loved UConn a little bit, loved Providence a little bit, and Virginia was my ACC team. I don't know why. I don't get it, but something about the Cavaliers.
I don't get it either. Dukies, Cameron Boozer is one of the best players in the entire country. This is a guy who, he leads the ACC in scoring, but he leads Duke in points, rebounds, and assists. This is a kid that will not only score when you need a big bucket, but if he's double teamed, he will throw it to the open guy. And I don't know, you talk about ACC teams. Well, your Irish got their asses kicked on, what was it, Tuesday night? Cameron Boozer had 24 points and 13 rebounds, and he didn't play the last 15 minutes of the game. Duke ended up beating Notre Dame 100-56. The worst loss at home for the Irish since 18. Let me repeat that. 1898, Joe.
Well, I tell you, they picked the wrong coach. They just did a bad job picking coach. I don't know why.
You fire Mike Bray and you hire this clown. Makes no sense.
Yeah, I mean, where did he come from? Penn State, if I remember right, correct?
Yeah. Yes.
I mean, it's not like you went out. I mean, at the same time, Patino was rolling around out there. Get Patino in there, and maybe that would help both people because Patino has done a great job reviving St. John's, but you're only going to get so many people to come and go to school in Flushing, Queens. Sorry.
Yeah, true. And yes, Micah Shrewsbury is the guy's name who came from Penn State and is the coach at Notre Dame. His overall coaching record is 92-133. So he has a losing record, and it's not going well at Notre Dame. I expect him to probably get fired.
Probably the worst coaching pickup that Notre Dame's had since Jerry Faust.
I would agree.
Football.
I would agree.
All right, my friend. Have a good night. Stay dry, and we will be back next week. Everybody, stay safe. Talk to you later.
Sounds good, bud.